So welcome to today's Business Spotlight, and today we have the pleasure of having Roddy from Energy Cloud. Derek, you're very welcome. Great to see you today.
Thanks, Tom. Great to be here.
Fantastic. So tell all the people in our audience here, what do you do and how long have you been doing it?
Yeah, so Tom, Energy Cloud is a social enterprise that I set up a couple of years ago with some co-founders, and it was born out of a ambition and a drive to really look at energy poverty and see how we might tackle energy poverty. So maybe to give your listeners a bit of background, I stumbled across a social enterprise awards several years ago, and I seen two amazing young ladies set up a social enterprise called Food Cloud. And I'm sitting in the audience and I heard their story. They were just after delivering 100 million free meals using surplus food from shopping centres or retail outlets, collecting it in the evening and redistributing it to people in food poverty. And as I was sitting in the audience, it dawned on me that in my space, in the energy world, we have hundreds of millions of euros worth of energy that is surplus every year from wind turbines that basically get switched off. So when it's really windy at nighttime, typically at nighttime, we actually switch off the wind turbines. There's not enough demand, and that energy by default is wasted. So as I was sitting in the audience that day, listening to their story, I went, oh, maybe I'm looking at this wrong. Maybe it's a social enterprise approach where we actually get all the stakeholders involved to try and do good. And by default, we actually raise awareness of how the future energy system might work.
Wow, that's a serious number. So I didn't realize that with that it gets turned off. I think a lot of people wouldn't fully understand that either.
Yeah, it's one of those numbers where people do a double take. I seen your face doing it. Are you sure?
Yeah.
But it's real, and it's happening. And to give you an example, yesterday in Dublin, we done a launch with Fingal County Council, so one of the largest county councils in the country, and they have now kicked off a project with Energy Cloud. The minister was there to launch it. All the key stakeholders who are part of Energy Cloud. So when we were setting it up, Tom, the key piece here was that we needed everybody from the wind turbine to the home to be part of the organization, and to basically create this organization where we all agreed we needed to figure out how to solve this, because our existing approach obviously wasn't working, or we wouldn't be wasting this energy. So it needed a fresh, innovative approach to it. And that's yesterday what was launched with Fingal, where we actually have a homeowner in a house talking about how at nighttime she gets her hot water heated up for free from a wind turbine that would have otherwise be switched off.
Interesting. So you bring together all the players. I know, I see on the website here, you have a whole host of fantastic and pretty much well-known leaders in business. So you bring them all together. You then get all the stakeholders together, and you are helping them to help themselves, to help their customers, to help their government. So it really is a social exercise. So it's a win-win for pretty much everybody.
Yeah, I think, and from an entrepreneurial point of view, and from your listeners' point of view, I read a book a couple of years ago, Tom, called The Solution Revolution, and it really struck me as a new approach to solving some of society's biggest challenges. And we needed a solution revolution. So we keep complaining about our hospital waiting lists, or we complain about, but what are we actually doing about it, and how are we approaching it? So it sort of challenged us. Maybe our approach that is wrong in how we take on these challenges, that one company coming up with a solution is not the way to do it. We need to come together as a group of people.
So collaboration is key.
Yeah, exactly. And as you know, in every organization, there's always that entrepreneur. There's the person who wants to try and change the direction of their organization, but they may not be the CEO, or they may not be the R&D manager, but they're absolutely bursting with energy to try and change their organization. And what you find with Energy Cloud and what we're doing, we actually shine a light on that person in ESB, or that person in EirGrid or that person in the wind farm association who's in there, and they sort of find us. And as an organization, we've got a voice, so they can bring back our ideas internally. And all these ideas, we have residents and citizens who are in fuel poverty, who are really struggling, who could do with our help. And that's a really good focus, because you remove all the other, yeah.
So how do you fund this? It might be a silly question, but how do you actually fund this? Do you give your time on all your fellow directors here?
Yeah, so we set it up. Actually, the approach to it was to start off on how you tackle the problem. We started off with the Irish Wind Energy Association, and then we started off with the largest housing association. So Noel Caniff, who was the CEO of the Irish Wind Energy Association, and Joe Whittle, who was one of the directors of Clúid Housing. And basically, we sat in a hotel, the Gibson Hotel, 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, just before lockdown. And this idea, Noel, you've got surplus. Your wind farmers have surplus energy. Joe, you've got 10,000 homes who could do this energy. Will the three of us sit together and create a not-for-profit and actually try and figure out how we get Noel's surplus to you? And that was the acorn of the idea. So there was no funding required. It was just like, will we try this and put our time into it? And we committed to spend every Friday for 1 hour during the whole of lockdown. And as we kicked it off, we started adding people to the board. And I should mention Cathal Lee, who was one of the co-founders. Cathal was the strategic brain who managed the stakeholders to bring them to the table, etc., and how we'd actually do it. But that's how we did it. So that to this date, we actually don't have a bank account, which is always a good sign or a bad sign. I'm not too sure, Tom. But it meant that everybody was contributing their time, really contributing their time, and their organizations were allowing them to do it. Now, the actual making it work piece, Amazon, AWS stepped up to the mark last year and said to Clúid, we'd like to do whatever's needed on the technology side in your homes to make this happen. And then more recently, SSE Electricity have stepped up and have donated €2.5 million into the Energy Cloud basically organization, again, with the idea of scaling this up to 10,000 more homes. But it's a very simple thing, Tom. We take the homeowner's hot water tank and we basically connect it to the internet, for want of a better word. And when it's windy at nighttime, we remotely switch on that immersion switch. The tank gets heated up, and the next morning we send them a message to say, you got a free tank of hot water last night from Energy Cloud. So it's how it works. Now, it's a little bit more complex, but any of the normal challenges to doing that were removed because all the stakeholders agreed to fix their bit of the problem and help alleviate the challenge.
Isn't that just a fantastic example of the power of people communicating? Somebody comes up with an idea, somebody else says, hey, that's a great idea. What about trying this? I think that's absolutely fantastic. It's just inspiring. It's really, really good. Derek, I could chat about this all day. So tell me, as a matter of interest, before you were in this, you still are in Plymouth, smart homes and everything else. As a business owner, would it be an unfair question to ask you, what's the biggest learning that you've got since you became a business owner?
Yeah, I think I genuinely believe in this. I probably I have a social enterprise brain. So even if someone was to ask me, and if you look globally, Tom, at business leaders, you look at the Bill Gates, you look at the Jeff Bezos, who knock it out of the park. They hit an age of 50, 55, 60, and then they go, shit, what was this all about? And what did they try and do? They try and give back.
Yeah.
So to try and actually figure out, how do I make a difference, or what was my purpose, or what was this all for? So that has sort of always been in the back of my mind. When you've got a business, you're always trying to solve a problem. But I probably always struggled with the idea that if someone came and acquired the business and I made the money, what would I do with it? And I always tended to, I want to help solve something in society. And that's probably been the bit where, when I read that book, The Solution Revolution, it really resonated with me. And I'm going, that is what I want to do. I want to help. And then I'm just using my skills, if I have any, to try and make people not make people, but try and get that common ground where everybody can help. So it's using your skills. And I think, and what I would say to anyone out there who's in business, and this is the way we've done it with my Climewood hat on, I sort of talked to the team, my shareholders, and said, look, can we try and actually use our smarts and our know-how to make an impact? Yes, we need to make money on our day job, but is there an opportunity where the team could actually use our strengths to make a difference as well? And to be honest, the team are probably enjoying the social enterprise a bit too much. But it's a really good way to get your team and what I found is generally the human race wants to evolve and want to help people. And if you can give them an opportunity to do that, their natural instinct will be to help out.
Well, I have to say, there's a book that I haven't read, The Solution Revolution, but it sounds similar to one book that I advise my clients to read is Start With Why. Because I can tell you up to only recent years, if somebody had asked me, what is your why? Did I know? Do most people know? And the honest answer to that question is no, they don't. But when you do have one, life becomes more exciting. That's part of what I do. The coaching.
Absolutely.
But to your point there, you put it in a much better way. I think that's really good. So tell me, what do you think is their future? What would you see? Where would you see Energy Cloud in 5 years' time?
Yeah, so we're fairly ambitious, Tom, with the plan. When you've got someone like Amazon coming to the table, you learn fairly quickly that Amazon don't do local projects. You've got to approach Amazon with a global idea. They wouldn't sponsor or support Energy Cloud if it was just to do a project in Ireland. So you've got to actually start talking about how would this go globally. So we've had already to think that through, and the plan is to go. So we've got Energy Cloud Northern Ireland already up and running. Energy Cloud Scotland, England and Wales this year, and we will more than likely then set up something in Europe and in America as well. So we'll look at an overarching foundation where we've got Energy Cloud Ireland, Energy Cloud England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, all under a foundation, and we've already put that structure in place. So that's the plan, and the plan is genuinely, we know, Tom, that large asset investors, people who invest in wind farms, there is an onus on them now to actually look, and the backers of those strategic investments, to say what your why are you doing this, and what impact can you have? And it's that just for profit only is being questioned globally, and we think Energy Cloud's time is it's the right time for this, where we can actually help those large wind farm or those large asset investors to give back in a really coherent, well thought out manner. So the large wind farm investments that are happening off the coast of Ireland over the next 5 or 10 years have a genuine, our surplus is going to be given to people who are looking at our wind turbines that can help them if they're in fuel poverty. So the surplus from those farms actually gives back to those communities.
So don't allow waste.
No waste. Yeah.
Fantastic.
No waste.
Derek, Roddy, can I thank you very much indeed for your time today. Is there anything, one last question can I ask you, is there anything for the listeners here, is there anything you're looking for? Is there any sector that you want to talk to? Is there anything that you would be asking your audience for? If you can help with such and such, contact you. Is there anything that you'd like to reach out for?
Yeah, well, I suppose anyone, our model is very simple. We talk to local land or social housing bodies, approved housing bodies and local authorities. That's the demand side. And we then are on the generation side. So those two ingredients, as we scale out globally, if you're a wind farmer or you invest in wind farms or you're involved in that area, or if you're in the approved housing body area, the bit in the middle, the cables and all that piece, that's just their organizations, like the network owners that we have to engage with. But they're typically the two ingredients that kick it off in a new country. Have a demand, so the social housing side, and then the surplus side. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
by the way, you did excellently, very well. Derek, thank you so much for your time today. I think everyone will agree we learned an awful lot. Really appreciate your time. A pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom, and you too. Great to meet you.